Hey everybody, this is Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica, standing with Nathan Mattise and Joe Mullin, also from Ars. We're here at South by Southwest, catching tacos, barbecue, films, tech, music. We wanted to come back and report on some of the cool things we saw. I wanted to start by talking about movies. There's a lot of movies and a lot of geek and tech kind of movies.
The movie that surprised me the most is I saw a documentary called 44 Pages. It's about highlights for kids. You would never think that is an engaging topic whatsoever. It's the magazine of everyone's childhood dentistry. But the thing that surprised me most, this magazine's been around 70 years as of last summer. The film focuses on the making of the June 2016 issue and then kind of highlights philosophies throughout the making of that. And there's a really surprising amount of tech and science that goes into the magazine. They just started a robotics column, so if your kid is interested in robotics, they can pick up a Highlights magazine and take it from there.
I might subscribe. Joe, you see anything cool?
I did. The one that I was most surprised by is the one that I just published a review of yesterday, which is the Kim.com movie. Kim.com is probably the most famous criminal copyright case in the world, and we've been covering it since 2012 when there was a raid on his New Zealand mansion. I didn't think I had much more to learn about that case, but this film, which is called Kim.com, Caught in the Web, really surprised me because it made me realize how much his story, even if it wasn't originally, it's really become a story about New Zealand. Because I think the fundamental issues at this point aren't even so much related to copyright law. It's about what kind of relationship does New Zealand want to have with the U.S.? The U.S. legal system has decided he should show up in court. He hasn't, and there's been this ongoing extradition thing. It was great to see an in-depth movie that was actually really balanced, which I think is tough to do with a larger-than-life personality like that, and it was a new perspective on an old case. I really enjoyed it. .com did not like my review.
That's what I hear.
He said it was full of filth and bias, and so...
You heard it here first.
Check it out for yourself.
So there's a movie called Nobody Speak, Trials of the Free Press, which is coming out on Netflix this summer, and that is an interesting and provocative look at the Gawker litigation and whether you think that it's a travesty of free speech or there are people who are not sad that Gawker went down. I'd say whatever side of that argument you're on, the movie is compelling and it's worth a watch.
There was one documentary I saw called Becoming Bond. This is going to be on Hulu. Hulu picked up the rights to it. And it's the story of the Bond actor who was in only one movie. He followed Sean Connery, did only one film, and then disappeared. And so the movie sort of explores how did this guy come to be, what the heck happened to him. It's got enough twists and turns that I feel like he's making stuff up. I can't imagine the fact-checking nightmare it was. But even if it's not true, it's riveting stuff. So really good surprise.
That one looked really good too. The guy started out as a car mechanic and somehow becomes Bond.
Oh, it's even, that's light, putting it lightly in terms of the weirdness. But it wasn't just films at South by Southwest. Lots of panels, technology, stuff all over the place. Everyone's throwing a bunch of crap at the wall, seeing what sticks. And I know one thing that didn't was I watched a guy Google how to hack on a panel. South by Southwest does have its BS, but it also has its really compelling stuff. I was curious the kind of stuff you guys caught that really stood out that you remember in terms of conversations or tech.
I think panel-wise, I was really fascinated anytime I got a behind-the-scenes look at the entertainment I love. So I saw a panel about VFX design specifically towards aliens in movies, which was really cool. I saw the duo Survive, who scored Stranger Things, talk about the thought process for composing, depending on what the scene involved and depending on the characters involved. But those were both very cool. I still think the coolest thing for me was getting to do some demos. I'm not usually a gear reviewer, but I went over to the Levi's Outpost. They have a collaborative project with Google called Project Jacquard. It's essentially a denim jean jacket with a touch interface embedded right into the fabric on your left cuff. Levi's is thrilled with that. They can't wait to sell this jacket in the fall. Google sees it as the beginning of something larger. We can get this smart fabric, put touch interfaces on practically anything. You know, I'm interested to see the crazier ideas that come from it, but for now, I think starting small is probably going to be a smart thing.
I nerded out at some tech policy panels. What I found more interesting was to catch up on a couple of issues that Congress has tried to move in the past and people are still hopeful there might be movement on. So for example, what's called ECPA reform. The real problem is that the government can look at your emails without a warrant once they're 180 days old. No one really thinks that's a good idea on any side of the aisle. The House has passed it before. The House passed it again this year on a voice vote. It was interesting to go to a panel about digging down about kind of what the obstacles are, which essentially seem to be, it's just an easy solution for law enforcement, especially IRS and the SEC, and they don't want to give up those rights. Another panel that I saw was about bots that may discriminate. There's a lawsuit going on right now, which was filed by the ACLU on behalf of a media organization and researchers. And what the researchers are trying to do is figure out whether there may be certain algorithms that discriminate on the basis of gender or race or other protected categories. It's one thing to target a movie to you based on your interests from browsing the web, but it's quite another if it's an ad for housing or for a job. There's already been one study where they found in certain situations, women were much less likely to see Google ads for very high-paying jobs. Those things are regulated by federal law. And the researchers can't even really investigate if there are bots or algorithms that are discriminating because they're worried about violating the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. It's a long shot either way, but it was definitely interesting to hear a really in-depth description of what the problem is that they're trying to solve.
I saw former Vice President Joe Biden speak about the cancer moonshot, a term that some people at Ars Technica kind of revile at, but the push specifically at South by Southwest was pointing at app makers and entertainers and saying, what can you do for me? How can you develop apps that advocate and advertise about getting screenings? How can people in the data world work with the government to get data going from facility to facility because of how medical research relies so heavily on that? I know Congressman Hurd, a Republican from Texas, he talked a lot about other issues with data transparency, talking about how when you're a young member of Congress, you essentially turn into the IT guy for everyone older. A woman, he did not name the Congresswoman, but said that she asked for his help in figuring out how to use Snapchat for her office and things like that. He thinks the computer science graduates in Congress are the ones who are going to push that forward. The other very surprising government-related panel I went to was one in which the CIA showed off a really curious training exercise, board gaming. Specifically, super nerdy, go to the board game shop, go to the back to the big, bulky wargaming style board games.
Public available board games.
They are not public, the CIA's. These are still only internal. In fact, they were very itchy about what I could and couldn't take photos of, because some of it's not IP necessarily, but there's certain things. We're thinking about ways to maybe get our hands on them. But I did get to play some of them until a fire alarm went off. And I'm still wondering, one of the games was actually about chasing and capturing El Chapo from the 2014 successful capture.
Did you get him?
I didn't even get to play it, but the group that was playing it almost got him. I played a game that was more like the game Pandemic, where people are teaming up to handle multiple crises around the globe. We had Trouble in Venezuela was one of ours. That was my favorite. But it was really, the training was about bringing out organic learning situations, having officers for the CIA essentially talk to each other in ways that are both real and not real. Actually, they said that some of the criticism and the exploits of the games proved to be really interesting and educational.
Austin's been beautiful to us. I think the coolest thing about South by Southwest is the variety you can get within a given day. I'm getting world-class barbecue for breakfast. I'm going to see Senator Cory Booker at my brunch hour. Then maybe I'm going to see a panel on some hardcore film VFX techniques afterwards. And of course, at the end of the night, Trouble in Venezuela at the Mohawk. So it's been really fun to see the variety that you can get in just a single day here.
I think we're going to go tear it up a little bit. Maybe have a barbecue taco or a taco barbecue, something with taco and barbecue in it. So we're really looking forward to that. Again, Sam from Ars here with Nathan and Joe. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you soon.